Hi, I'm Vishweshwar. In this video, we are going to see computer hardwares, that's BIOS, Cmos, and Post. BIOS. BIOS is the basic input or output system. The BIOS is the one which communicates the computer and the devices, which means the BIOS is responsible to communicate with all the input hardwares of your computer. Any hardware of your computer will be interacted by by this BIOS. It is the BIOS. You can see that in the ROM of your computer hardware, the read-only memory ROM. And once when you give an input as a user, you try to give an input, it receives the information in the BIOS and makes the right hardware to work on the right time. Because it contains all informations about the hardware in the computer, and also it can run on different hardware platform, and the standard is referenced in the hardware in such a way that it can respond to any hardware part of your computer. And the BIOS is said to be the most important chip. It acts like a chip in your computer. It's the most important one to interact with all the hardware's input as well as the processing. It also gives an instruction to the processor to interact with all the other hardware parts of the computer also. So this is all about BIOS. CMOS, complementary metal oxide semiconductor. This contains all settings and the computer configurations in it. Each settings done by the user are all saved as a program that consists of a key combination to the setup. The key combinations such as Shift plus F1 or Control Shift and Escape, all these keys can be pressed all together, either of these, in order to access the CMOS setup program. It's a kind of a program page where a user can interrupt while the computer is in a startup. For example, if you start up your computer, you need to press either Shift plus F1 or Control Shift plus Escape key at the same time so that it will take you before the computer OS runs. In that page, you have and lots of options to how the computer is modified or how the computer is completely configured. Using that, you can make some changes and priority so that once when the program setup is done, the configuration at last can be saved so that the settings are saved in it. And once when the settings are saved, it will reboot again to run the operating system with the latest changes that you have done. So some of the changes that we usually do is that while the computer is booting, we change the priority. The boot sequence can be set from A drive or C drive, or it can be a C drive or an A drive, either of these. You can change it depending upon how you wanted your computer to boot. For example, if you are trying to install a new operating system, and the first priority, that's a boot sequence, is set as your hard disk, but you don't have any contents in the hard disk. So there is there is no possibility to install the operating system, but you have an option to change using the CMOS program. You can change the priority to your CD drive so that the CD drive will be initiated before the hard disk, and it tries to make the hardware or make the operating system to install. All the settings also, when you turn off your computer, it runs automatically, such as your date, time, your hardware, your hard disk configurations, and your memory of your computer. These these automatically changes even when the computer is turned off. This is due to the memory chip called the complementary metal oxide semiconductor. That's the kind of chip that is in the RAM that stores and updates all the informations even when the computer is turned off. This is CMOS, that's complementary metal oxide semiconductor. CMOS battery. To maintain the CMOS RAM settings, even if there is no power supply in your computer, it automatically updates using this CMOS battery. This is the one stores the date, time, the hardware configuration and memory as we saw a few minutes before. So all these are stored, or all these informations run at the background using the CMOS battery. It continues the power supply, a minimal power supply to make these updates automatically. POST, that's a power on self test. Every time when the computer is powered on or resetted using the reset button, the Windows reset command reboots, or means like it restarts the operation conditions. And here it involves some special program called the power on self test. So here it happens like once when the computer is turned on, if there is any error, you can see that on your computer screen. That is responsible by the post. The post just gives a beep sound initially when the computer is turned on. It doesn't care whether your speaker is turned on or not. But while the computer is turned on, you get a beep sound, one single beep sound saying that your computer is working successfully. It checks all the input and output devices, that's the hardware of your computer, whether it's working fine or not. If it has any problem detected in it, it's going to display in the screen once when the computer is completely booted up. So this is all about POST, that's a power on self test. Beep codes before and during the video test. Here when the power on self test happens, we get a beep sound saying that all the hardware in the computer is working fine and it's ready to boot the operating system to work. But depending upon the beep sound that we hear, we will be able to know what is the issue in the computer. So this is a kind of an intimation before you see the display in the screen.